devastating hurricanes, unprecedented heat waves, catastrophic flooding. An upward trend of extreme weather and climate events is leading to significant losses across the globe. In the fight against climate change, no one is a bystander. China has pledged to peak the nation's CO2 emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. To shed light on the country's journey towards sustainable development, our reporters traveled across China to capture the stories of individuals, enterprises and public institutions who are striving to make a difference. As COP29, the UN Climate Change Conference, convenes from November the 11th to the 22nd in Azerbaijan, CGTN Radio brings you a special series, Greener China, A Journey to 2060. Join us on your favorite podcast platforms to witness Chinese people's awareness, actions and the challenges we face as the country journeys into a greener future.
Hi, I'm Yang Guang, and welcome to our special series, Greener China, A Journey to 2060. In our last episode, we ventured deep into the forests of the southwestern Yunnan province, tracking the footprints of wildlife and exploring the challenging journey of biodiversity conservation. In this program, we head to northeast China, where the first industrial base of the country has been stepping up its efforts to promote low-carbon transformation to optimize its industrial sectors.
When I hear of carbon dioxide, the first thing that comes to my mind is Coca-Cola, and then the greenhouse effect. It's cool for us carbonated drink lovers, but at the same time, CO2 emissions really threaten the global climate.
I grew up in an industrial city and am concerned about the carbon dioxide emission from industrial production and how it affects our health and environment.
It reminds me of global warming and rising sea levels.
According to a 2022 report from the International Energy Agency, the industrial sector is the second largest carbon emitter after power generation, responsible for over a quarter of global CO2 emissions. China has set the goal to peak carbon dioxide emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. It makes me wonder what role the country's traditional industry sector can play in reaching the targets. Northeast China refers to the resource-rich provinces of Liaoning, Jilin and Heilongjiang. In the early years after the founding of the People's Republic of China, about 80% of the country's industrial activities were centered in this region. It was the heartland of the country's comprehensive industrial system, with a focus on heavy industries such as steel, machinery, oil and petrochemicals, and with cities like Anshan and Daqing serving as key industrial bases. However, a 2022 environmental report revealed that these aging industrial cities contribute to over half of northeast China's carbon emissions. As the country strives toward a greener future, these areas are in dire need to embrace low-carbon transformation. A veteran worker in Daqing recalls some outdated emission practices.
In
the past, carbon dioxide generated during natural gas production was often released directly into the air if not reused. The annual emissions were substantial.
But many people were unaware of the connection between carbon dioxide and environmental issues, addressing instead pollutants like dust and noise. Former mechanical inspector Ma Yuchen worked at an steel group in Anshan for nearly 40 years.
Back in the 1980s, carbon emissions weren't a concern for us. We were more worried about the impacts of heat, dust, and noise on our health.
Caixin Insight Group, a high-end financial information service platform, reported that in 2022, the Chinese steel industry accounted for more than half of the country's industrial carbon emissions. effective CO2 management in the industry has become a priority. Anshan, the city we visited in Liaoning province, is home to China's first steel production base, An Steel Group. The third largest steel maker in the world, covers an area of 176 square kilometers, about a quarter of the city's urban area. Huang Gang, director of An Steel Coating Factory, emphasized the importance of upgrading their emission methods.
People nowadays expect a better living environment, so we've managed to automate our production lines and implemented fully enclosed processes to make sure that CO2 emissions are strictly managed. Everything is recycled and treated before release.
Inside the plant, I was surprised to see workers sitting at computers managing the production line digitally. I believe this picture would definitely challenge many people's preconceived notion of a typical steel factory. Back in early 2000s, in response to economic decline and population loss in northeast China, the Chinese government initiated a plan to revitalize the region, boosting funding and support for the old industrial bases to navigate its way to sustainable development. Subsequent climate policies and low-carbon goals have further encouraged the industrial bases to enhance their awareness of CO2 reduction. Tian Yong is strategic manager of An Steel Group.
双碳战略之初呢，我们仅仅把双碳理解为节能。
Initially, we saw it merely as energy conservation or CO2 emission reduction. As we understood more and explored further, we realized that it's not just related to our production process, but also to our relationships with clients and the public. A green brand attracts more clients.
形象是息息相关。
In late 2022, the European Union reached an agreement to impose tariffs on carbon-intensive products entering its market by 2026.
我们必须加速自己绿色品牌建设的步伐。
We need to accelerate our green brand development. Many leading steel companies in the world have established their own green brands. Collaborating with them and adopting their advanced concepts, we've launched our An Green brand. By 2030, we will achieve over 90% reduction in carbon emissions compared to traditional production methods.
According to the National Development and Reform Commission, nearly a third of resource-depleted cities in the country are found in northeast China, which is also known as the country's Rust Belt region. Daqing oil field in Heilongjiang province is the country's largest oil field, spanning over 6,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of 5 New York cities. It has over 6 billion tons of proven oil reserves, placing it among the wealthiest oil fields worldwide. On our way from the Daqing railway station to one of the oil field factories, I saw many oil rigs working along the roadside. The locals told me that this city almost sits on a sea of oil. But Pang Zhiqing, manager of the oil field new energy department, acknowledged a resource extraction bottleneck.
Daqing oil field has a water cut of over 94%. That means for every 100 tons of extracted liquid, 94 is water, leaving only 5 to 6 tons of oil. When the water cut exceeds 98%, it becomes what we call a depleted oil field.
The management at oil field mentioned they are seeking breakthroughs in extraction technology and has gradually realized that carbon dioxide can enhance oil recovery.
In the past, we burned off the associated gas from crude oil because we didn't know its value.
The traditional way of using water injection to force the oil toward producer wells no longer works here due to changing geological conditions. The reservoir energy available to produce oil is insufficient. We have explored various methods and finally found that injecting carbon dioxide could help replenish oil reservoir energy so that the oil could be forced out.
At an ecological park of An Steel Group, I was surrounded by blooming flowers and fruit trees. Ecological restoration is another step that both Ansteel and Daqing Oilfield take in their transition to a sustainable economy. Park manager Li Hui told me that this area used to be a mountain of mine waste rocks.
The
rocky surface here gets really dusty, especially on windy days in spring and autumn. Once the mountain reached a certain height, we could no longer pile it higher with rocks. Then we knew we needed a change. Our initial goal was to turn the area green. In 2014, we decided to set up an ecological park to showcase our restoration efforts.
2 buses arrived, bringing students for educational trips. I was told the park also serves as an education base for promoting grain development.
So far, we've cultivated over 63,000 square meters of flower fields.
Daqing Oilfield has also built an ecological park in a former dormitory area. The park director says they host promotional activities regularly, such as gardening and recycling, to improve public awareness of a low-carbon lifestyle.
This year, we were certified as a provincial study base and received the highest assessment score. We offer 10 courses related to carbon dioxide for students and the public.
With the promotion of green and low-carbon concepts, the local people's carbon and climate change awareness is notably improving.
I see tips on low-carbon living everywhere, from news to ads to community bulletin boards. This has really made me more aware of low-carbon habits.
The first time I realized I needed to lead a low-carbon life was after watching a video showing glaciers melting due to CO2 emission. It was shocking.
The increase in extreme weather events over the past couple of years has made me aware of the impact of carbon dioxide on climate change. I've been sticking to green travel for 3 years, walking or taking public transport instead of driving.
In other parts of the country, emerging grain industries are showing greater momentum in carbon reduction. They are mostly concentrated in the more developed eastern and southern regions, including Shanghai and Guangdong. A 2024 study conducted by Chinese Academy of Social Sciences highlights that the eastern regions have achieved higher levels of low-carbon development compared to the northeast, thanks to a stronger emphasis on innovations in clean production. Dr. Zhou Jingfeng, an expert in grain development, shares his insights on overall carbon awareness in Chinese industrial areas.
New industrial zones have more advanced low-carbon concepts and greater investments. This makes their transition easier compared to the older industrial areas. However, there is still room for improvement across all of China's industrial regions. It's crucial for these areas to set their own carbon goals and roadmaps to turn awareness into action.
A report released in November 2024 by China's Ministry of Ecology and the Environment reveals that the country's CO2 emissions per unit of GDP dropped by 34% from 2013 to 2023. But despite the improvement, carbon emissions from the Chinese industrial sector still account for around 70% of the country's total CO2 emissions, according to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology. Achieving carbon neutrality remains a significant challenge. Awareness is just the first step. Tomorrow, in the next episode, we will explore how the old industrial bases in northeast China are transitioning towards sustainability. Until then, I'm Yang Guang. Bye-bye.